Welcome back. You're watching Today in the Bay, and we are continuing our Earth Week coverage. We are going to continue to follow how climate change is affecting us as Climate Week continues in San Francisco. We have a lot of events going on, including the San Francisco Climate Week event that is happening this evening. And we've been talking a lot about rising sea levels and how that affects us. And we have a look at some of the impacts that we are seeing right here, of course, with California, much of the population living along the coastline. We are definitely going to be affected by those rising sea levels that have been continuing to happen over the past several years. And since 1993, we've been accurately tracking this and seeing that our sea levels are rising, and it is expected to continue to rise. And we have a special guest with us this morning. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Brosnan. And you're here for the San Francisco Climate Week in the Bay Area as one of the keynote speakers tonight. So it is such an honor to have you here early this morning. And we just want to talk about sea level rise. When we talk about that, we don't really understand overall how climate change has affected how that causes sea level rise. So tell us more about that.
Absolutely. And thank you for inviting me down here. It's wonderful to be in the Bay Area. So we've all heard that in the Bay Area, in San Francisco and California in general, that sea level has risen by about 8 inches in the last 100 years. And so what's causing that? There's two main causes. The first is that our oceans absorb about 90% of the excess heat. So our oceans are getting hotter. Now, when water gets hot, it expands. So literally our seas are getting larger and bigger, and they're going upwards. So that's the first cause and the primary one. The second is glacial melt. So when we hear about glaciers melting, that water goes into the ocean. And today about 25% of sea level rise is caused by glacier melting. So when we hear, for instance, scientists being concerned about what's happening with the glaciers, this is why. It's because of the consequences. If more of these glaciers melt, we will get higher sea level rise. Now, for all of us, it's not just sea level rise, it is the consequences of sea level rise and how that affects us. And here in the Bay Area, there's several ways. For instance, storm surge. When you have higher water, the storm surge is stronger and it comes in further. So the second part of that is erosion. We're losing beaches, we get coastal erosion, and the most extreme form of that is when you see these properties on the cliffs. Literally, they're eroding and they're falling in. So for property owners, for businesses, that's a big issue. A third one here in the Bay Area is saltwater intrusion. So the salt water is coming in, it's getting into the groundwater, and it can get into the bay as well and change the salinity, which then has impacts on biodiversity. And of course, our infrastructure, our coastal infrastructure, our airports, our sewage treatment plants. So it's the consequences we have to be thinking about.
And so most people don't realize that all of that together is not just affecting the coastline, but the entire Bay Area, that saltwater intrusion and rising levels. So what can we do about that? Is there any near-term impacts or things that we can do to help that, or what's the long-term solution here?
Yes, you're absolutely right. We're all impacted. It's not just the person living on the coast or living near the high tide mark, it's all of us. So there's several things we can do. I think the most important is we have to get in an adaptation mindset. Our planet is changing, our world is changing, our coast is changing. So we need to figure out how are we going to adapt to those changes. And the good news is that we can, and that it's not too late. So first of all, on a very practical level at the moment, I am a great proponent of nature-based solutions, and that nature is our ally in climate change, and particularly along the coast. So here in the Bay Area, we have coastal marshes and beaches. They are our first line of defense. And protecting those and maintaining those right now is key. If you're a property owner, if you're a community group, do everything you can to maintain those ecosystems. Over the long run, we will probably have to beef them up and may include some engineering solutions with nature-based solutions, but right now you can do that. The second is to get involved and become aware. Involved in community groups, involved in restoration, involved in taking actions and making choices that help with adaptation, because that sustains yourself as well as your community. And more long-term, three main areas. One is regulation and policy, and good incentives. Good incentives, I don't think we have enough of them, will really make people want to do the right thing for the planet and for our communities. The second is getting involved in community groups. There's some wonderful NGOs around the Bay Area that are incredibly active and have been in protecting the coastline and doing good work for climate change. And the third is science, technology, and innovation. And that really is investing in the kind of technologies, listening to the science, the new innovations, the investments. And I have to say, the Bay Area leads the world in all three of these, and that's what's so exciting, which is why I'm excited to be here. I feel I'm in one of the best places in the world right now.
Yeah, and you were invited here to be keynote speaker tonight at an event in San Francisco as part of trying to educate the community about the impacts of climate change. Tell us about that.
Yes, it's an event this evening. It's at Enterprise Ireland at, I think, Ireland House in San Francisco. And it's talking about oceans, tech, and tides. And it really is about what's happening with our oceans, the role that our oceans can play in sustaining us, and the kind of investments we need to make in ocean science and ocean technology that are scalable, that result in good business and make a difference for biodiversity and also for our planet. So I'm very excited about it. If you're in San Francisco, please come join me and come with good questions.
Yes, and thank you. It's such an honor to have you here, Dr. Brosnan, and we really appreciate the information that you're bringing and educating the community, and we really appreciate your time getting up early with us this morning.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for covering this topic. It's so important to all of us.